Ryan. Anybody know Ryan? 101st Airborne? Ryan? You know a guy named Ryan? Private James Ryan from Iowa? Anybody know a Ryan? James Ryan!
Oh, hello, Roanoke. Welcome to T-Bone's Best of Roanoke show, where we go after the best people, places, and things to do in our fair city. Big thanks to our studio band and my special guest host, Mr. G. Woo! Now, on with the show. When did you start working here, Ian?
So I started just after Labor Day in 2014.
And what was the biggest or most pleasant surprise? You said earlier that you at the beginning you're like, wow, this is quite an undertaking I'm gonna have here. But what's been the biggest surprise or pleasant surprise for you since you've been here since 2014?
It's got to be hands down how quickly and fully this community embraced my arrival. They want this building to be vibrant. Everybody wants this place to succeed. It's not like we have naysayers. I mean, you might see a few pop up in social media situations where people don't like our choice of programming, or they're going to take pot shots at us from behind the veil of the anonymity wall in social media. But for the most part, the Roanoke Valley is extremely interested in seeing this building flourish, and I've just had tons of support. I mean, Diane Elliott, I share a wall with Local Roots, and she's been nothing but supportive all the time. She wants to know, they look at our calendar, they want to know when our special events are, they build their menus off of what we're doing. There's many people, probably a quarter of the people that advertise on our screens are businesses that exist here in the village, anywhere from probably 25 to 35% of them. And that's, from a direct marketing point of view, is fantastic. You walk out of this building and you walk into the building right next to you to do your shopping. So,
as we start to wrap it up, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about MoviePass. Can you talk about that and the effect it's had on the Grandin?
More than happy to talk about MoviePass. We struggled in the beginning with MoviePass because we didn't really like the ideology of the organization. It was sort of a borrow from Peter to pay Paul type model, sort of the gym membership model. We're going to oversell the facility based on the knowledge that people aren't going to be here and come. And we did a lot of reading about it. We read that AMC and knew that there was other movie organizations that had issues with it, including a massive litigious, suit from AMC against MoviePass, where they were suing them based on their model and based on some unsustainability that just didn't feel right about the company. It's a great idea, and we originally decided that we weren't going to take it, even though that we weren't. It was more of an ideological sort of resistance to the fact that the company had listed us as taking their services and their product, but never called us.
Okay.
And if you run a business, no matter whether it's for-profit or non-profit, one of the things that you hold high is that you get to choose who you have relationships with and choose who you don't. And we felt really sort of cornered by MoviePass that they didn't really give us an option. Now, people ask, well, don't you get the money? And we're like, yeah, we do. Are you made whole on every transaction? Yes, we are. Then why do you care? I still care. I still care because even though I'm being paid by the organization, it doesn't mean that I have, like what they do or like how they do it. And then it became a situation where MoviePass was doing such a great job at marketing their product that more and more of the people in the community, and first it was just a trickle and it was easy to have a conversation, no, we don't take it. And then it became some of an issue with our patrons because they didn't care. They bought a product that they told they could use at our theater, and they were walking up to our theater and finding out that it was not something we agreed with. And I sat down and I had a pretty long session and conversation with some integral people in the organization, and we realized that to the public, this shouldn't be an ideological issue. It should be a transactional issue. And it doesn't matter to me what I think about the product. What matters to me, what my patrons think about us. So we switched overnight. We decided to take MoviePass because the people in this community who hold that card want to use it here, and I want them to do that. So it just stopped being ideological and started being about patron service. And from that point on, we started taking MoviePass, and we still do successfully. And we've seen an increase in numbers. I wouldn't say a huge amount of numbers of people use MoviePass. It's still in the single percentage in our box office, but we want to make sure that anybody, like I said before, it didn't match up with my ideological. I started to contradict my own vision of who we were as a cultural community center, and I started saying no to people, which is something that we don't ever do here unless it's followed by the word problem. And we're problem solvers here. My staff are problem solvers. They're encouraged to help any patron who has an issue with us in any way through any transaction by ensuring that they have their experience rectified then or in a future time where they come back into the building. And it became a device of obstructive energy to stop people at the box office and say, no, we weren't doing that. So we switched, and we realized that it was something we wanted to let them do.
Okay. I see the struggle in that answer, but let me just say you came through that.
Yeah, we did.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We reviewed what it was that was ideologically correct for us and why we do what we do, because I think a lot of people don't ask that question enough. Why do you do what you do? Mostly it's a what and a where and a how and a when and a how much. And we try to start with why we do what we do, and we realized that we were a contradiction when we approached it from why, and we just repositioned ourselves on it, and we put the power back in the public's hand, which you should do if you're a community theater. I want the people in this community to use this facility the way they wanted to, and re-examining our position on that allowed them to do that.
It's very impressive. Well, I have two last questions, and I'll let G have his last shot at you, Ian, and then I'll give you the last word. You've been here since 2014, and you have a very impressive number of first-run movies that come through here. What, in your assessment, has been the most popular movie that's come through here that's created the most buzz?
Wow, that's a really big question. We look for runners. I mentioned that term before. It's a term that I use. I'm not sure if it's an industry standard, but we look for films that are ones that you wouldn't expect to be huge hits, but then they catch fire word of mouth, or the ratings improve when people start watching them. Because there's a big thing in the movie business where a film will get rated and then the critics will put their paws all over it, and then people will decide if they want to see it. But for me, in this aspect, being a nonprofit theater, I'm more interested in what the people coming in and out of the building have to say about it, and then what do they say when they leave. So to answer your question, Tim, I'll have to do that probably by year. The first runner that we landed on was right after I got here, was Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie came out, and it's not an art house film. It's a big blockbuster film, but it was such an interesting take on the superhero movies because it was this universal sort of context. And then it just blew the world away with this fantastic soundtrack. And it's just one of the best soundtracks if you've not seen the movie. They just go back deep into the realm of great American music. And that, I think that played for like 8 or 9 weeks, and I thought that's pretty interesting. But that fall, we landed on The Imitation Game, which is the Benedict Cumberbatch film that took place in England about the code breakers during World War II. Yeah. And that ran for, I think that ran for 13 or 14 weeks for us.
Enigma.
Yeah. And then the following year was a pretty quiet year. 2015 was a pretty quiet year, and the movie that ran for us that year was Mr. Holmes. So that was the Ian McKellen film, sort of the take on an older version of Sherlock Holmes. Wow. And last year, 2017, we did something that I didn't think was possible in my nascent career in the movie businesses. We had a January in 2017 that was bigger than the previous December, the month before, because December is the biggest month of the year in the movie business. This facility does 25 to 32% of its annual revenue in the last 6 weeks of the year. I mean, it's just phenomenal how many people go to the movies. The weather's cold, everybody's on holiday, people are home, the movies are newly released. I mean, we just go, we literally barricade ourselves behind the concessions booth for the last 6 weeks, and the kids just go, they just put their head down until people stop coming to them. And so that was a huge December at the end of 2016, and then we rolled into January with these, which is usually a quiet month. It's kind of a hangover month in the movie business. People have spent all their money on Christmas. They don't have a lot of money to go out. It's dark. It's cold. People are just trying to replenish their bank accounts. And we landed on, we had Jackie, which was the Onassis film done by Natalie Portman. We had Manchester by the Sea, which just ripped the guts out of people. And then we rolled into these two remarkable films. One was Lion, which is the Dev Patel, Nicole Kidman film.
Saw that.
And it would not go away. It just, I mean, it ran for 11 weeks. And side by side upstairs in the theater was this incredible film, which was Hidden Figures. And Hidden Figures, true story. So Hidden Figures caught fire for us so much that we had new releases downstairs with Annette Bening in the main that 20 people were coming to, and we were turning away people from the community in the afternoons because we'd sold all 74 seats on Hidden Figures. We actually, for the first time in my tenure, had to take a movie from upstairs and move it downstairs because it was still performing in the third and fourth week at higher and higher levels. And that movie, I mean, it touched on race relations, it touched on the Cold War, it touched on the space race, it touched on women's rights, it touched on science, technology, and engineering, and then above all, it was a Virginia story. I mean, it was before the space race moved to Texas with Johnson, so it just kept running, and that ran for 12, 13 weeks for us. So those two films were running side by side like marlins on a line, and you just couldn't reel them in no matter what you did. You just had to sit and watch them go. And we did the same thing at the end of this year. We had 3 billboards and Lady Bird, and we're still doing Darkest Hour. Lady Bird left us after 10 weeks last week. 3 billboards ran for 10 weeks. We're in the 9th week of Darkest Hour.
Winston Churchill. I'm sure you screen every single movie that comes through. Right?
The answer to that question is I don't. I honestly don't, which is indicative of how busy I am and how vibrant the theater is and how much work there's to do for the foundation. So I wish I had more time to try to see all the films, but I do try to see most of them. Shape of Water too.
Yep.
13 nominations, and I'm in my 7th or 8th week with Shape of Water.
You've got the Shape of Water going. You got the Post going. You got Black Panther going right now. And I, Tanya.
That's right.
Well, I'll turn it over to you, G, for your last words.
Well, I know we're running along. You've been gracious with your time. And let me ask you this, Ian. Who determines the length of the runs for these? Like you're saying, hey, we had this for 10 weeks. Who determines that? And follow that up
booking
with anything
agent.
the listeners would like.
Yeah, my
to know.
booking agent's a woman named Jan Klingelhofer.
So it goes back to the booking agent.
Yeah, and she basically what we do is we, Jan, she's been in the game for a long time, several decades. She's self-employed. She works out of her home in the East Bay, and she worked for one or two of the major movie companies when she was cutting her teeth. And we look at sales, and if it continues to fill, we continue to keep it. And it's only if we've got something big that might come and push something out, like Black Panther would push something out, or Wrinkle in Time by Disney, which is coming in March, which is a family-based film. If it continues to run, she's going to let it run as far as... And she'll break it down. Like, for instance, Darkest Hour, we're only showing once a day for 4 of the 7 days a week. But we still got it, because she's got to add other stuff. Shape of Water... 1 screening a day at 9:50 at night, 7 days a week. But we still have it. Like, it's still putting seats in, so she's still gonna put the butts in the seats, and we're gonna run it as far as we can. Okay. And then we work with her about what we need to show and what's coming up as well. So,
Tim, did you want to wrap it up with anything?
I'll let Ian have the last word, last say.
Last word, last say. I wanted to thank the two of you guys for coming. I do a lot of media interactions. I do a lot of interviews and conversations, because talking about this building is something that's a priority for this organization, because we want to make sure that people are constantly aware of it. This has been fun. I mean, I got to let you know, Tim, that the G-Man, he's got some body odor issues. Like,
again,
next time we do this, we need to switch seats, but
turn the fan on.
He's an adorable guy, and he dresses well,
but still Shrekish.
Yeah, that's right. He's got the ogre issues, man.
Thank God for edits.
That's right. That's right. You can take that right out of it. No, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. You guys are welcome back anytime.
Well, Ian Fortier, Executive Director of the Grandin Theater. There's a zillion stars out on the sidewalk, and there's certainly one sitting in your seat. We appreciate it so much. And by the way, one last thing. What's your favorite concession food at the concession
It's
stand?
the corn, man. Straight up corn and cherry Coke.
All right, go get them, Tiger.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Hey, know a good topic or person for the show? Contact us on email or Instagram at T-Bone's Best of Roanoke Show. Now, back to the show!
Whoa, Nelly, you are listening live to T-Bone's Best of Roanoke Show. And this is a follow-up to the Grandin Theater interview with Ian Fortier. And I brought in the Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel of Roanoke to help discuss some of their favorite Grandin Theater movie memories. I have with me today, as always, Mr. G, and a newcomer, the Honey Badger, Mr. Mike Hawley. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi, Tim. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Tim.
Morning, Mike.
Morning, G.
Good morning. And we just finished up a nice interview with Ian, and I want to talk to you guys about your experiences at the Grandin Theater, what movies you've seen there, what memories you have from going there. I remember going back there in 1998. We went upstairs to the upper level to watch Saving Private Ryan. Have either of you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen it there, too.
You did? Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about that later. But, we went up there to see that movie, and we're in the smaller section. And the movie starts where they're landing on D-Day at Omaha Beach. So, it's raw, and it sucked me right in. It was just the bullets flying, the water, the yelling, the screaming, the chaos. And it just pulled me right in, and I stayed in that movie the whole time, all the way to the end, where the gentleman goes back there and looks at the graves of his comrades. But that was one of the most powerful movie memories I have of going to the Grandin Theater, was to see that movie, Saving Private Ryan. And then there was a spinoff of that on HBO, I believe, called Band of Brothers. But that's one of my favorite movies there.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Well, that was one of my, I believe, it may have been my first movie at the Grandin Theater. It was me and my wife, before we were married, went on our first movie date, and it was very early in our relationship. And we went to the Grandin Theater, and we went upstairs, and we seen Saving Private Ryan, and we're waiting to get in. And we thought maybe it was, at the moment it was quiet, so we opened the door to see, and you could tell the movie was still going on, so we waited. A few minutes later it ended, and everybody's coming out. We're wanting to get in, and the place was full. And as the people were coming out, everybody had this somber look on their face, and some people were crying, and we looked at each other, and we were like, well, what the heck, man? This, what is this going to be like? We knew it was a World War II movie. So we go in, and like T-Bone, like you said, the beginning scenes are pretty powerful. So it does set it up, and I am a World War II fan. I do like the history of all the wars, but it really grabs you, and it took us. We were new in our relationship. We come out, and we didn't say much to each other. It was such a powerful movie, and so we got in the car, and she said, she said, my father and brother was a Marine. My dad was a career Marine. So she said, that really hit home for me, that movie, and I understand a little bit more what he probably went through. And she said, every American ought to see that movie. And I agreed, and then we got to talking, and it was good that it ended up a good thing, and which it's a great movie. And
I think you told me that was the first movie you took your wife.
It was. It was the very first movie we went as our date night for that week, and we kind of laughed about it and thought maybe we should have picked another movie, but we enjoyed the movie so much. It was so powerful. Mm-hmm. You couldn't help but like it, and of course it had Tom Hanks. And
Is it a stretch to say Honey Badger that cemented the relationship?
It was a plus because her family was about all military. Both her brothers was in Vietnam. Her dad was in World War II and Korea. So she understands, what sacrifices, I guess, Americans go through to have what we have today. But anyway, it was a powerful movie, and I'll never forget when, like I said, before we went in, people were coming out crying, and we were like, oh gosh.
What's going on?
Yeah, so and then, we kind of wondered why they were crying. Then when it was over and we were walking out and there was people looking at us, we understood the whole thing there. Yeah.
Yeah, very somber, all the beginning and end. Yeah, what about you, G? What movies have you seen there? You're a Roanoke resident, so you've probably been to the Grandin once or twice.
Been a few times. The last movie I seen was, what was it, T-Bone? I told you about it.
It was Lady Bird.
Lady Bird.
Your favorite movie?
Yeah.
Of all time.
Interesting movie. It got a perfect rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
So Hannah went to see it. My daughter went to see it with Bonnie, my wife, and they loved it. So I'm very finicky with movies. Right. I like to cry during movies. I like to be moved. And so I had such high expectations for that movie. And when I went to see it with Hannah, it just didn't do it for me. I don't know if it was just, it was a mother-daughter type movie, which I got that. But, when it was over, I kind of laughed, and Hannah was like, you just didn't like it? And I was like, it just didn't, live up to the hype for me.
Now let me ask you this, G. Did they tell you about the movie before you went?
No, not too much, Mike. And I love to use Rotten Tomatoes as a reference point. Mm-hmm. And if it's ranking high on there, 99 out of 100 times, I like that movie. And so I was just extremely let down. It just didn't do it for me. I wasn't moved. When it was over, I kind of started laughing and chuckling like, is this it? But I totally got it to where it would sit well with Bonnie and Hannah. There were moments in there,
Sure.
mother-daughter, that were applicable to that audience. But
Was that based on Lady Bird Johnson?
Hell if I know.
Well, I was thinking it was. I didn't see it, but I would have. And
Did you see it, Mike?
I didn't see it, but the one thing I've learned for me to do in going to a movie is I don't want to know any more about the movie than I could possibly not know. I mean, I don't want to know anything about it and go in totally. I went to see, I think it was American Beauty.
Yeah.
Had no idea what it was about. My wife wanted to go, and I thought it was going to be about some beauty queen.
Right.
And of course, it's absolutely not about that at all.
Who was in that movie?
Kevin Spacey.
Spacey.
Yeah, I did see that movie. Love that kind of movie.
One of the best movies I've ever seen, no doubt about it.
Right.
But I've seen a lot.
So you don't read a movie review?
No, I don't like to. I don't want to know anything about it. And it seems to. Now, if I need to know something to kind of cue me in on, because if it's really oblivious that you don't know, there's no history behind the movie, it's not about anything, it's already happened, my wife might give me a couple of sentences to kind of say, now I want you to know this set is in 1929 and blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. And then we go and I get a perspective on it like that. But if you go in and you don't know anything and you just let the movie happen in front of you, it is a different experience than if you've seen a lot of previews and that kind of thing and heard what people said about it. But I've seen The Shape of Water here recently.
Another popular movie, yeah. But it's now what I read, I didn't go see it. Honey Badger it's a very unusual love story.
Oh gosh, and that's and if anything ever is true about not wanting to know anything going in and watching a movie, I did that on that, and that thing blew me away.
So you like the movie?
Very good movie.
It's been recommended to me, Mikey, and I read up on it, contrary to what you do. And I thought, nah, I'm just not into that. Isn't it like a fish kind of character or something, and a human fish or something?
It's kind of sort of a human-looking fish. and it's the whole situation of it being
Charlie Tuna.
as it's actually chained up in a lab inside a tank.
Yeah, right.
So you kind of you feel sorry for it, and in this I won't say too much, but anyway, it's I think
you
it's
said
very
enough.
worth.
I wouldn't see it just based on that.
Oh gosh, it's a great movie, yeah. And not everybody likes that kind of movie. Let me add one more memory from the Grandin. My wife, the second movie we went and seen was just a small little theater there at the Grandin, the smallest I think, and it was a movie called The Red Violin. It didn't get any notoriety, didn't even know, but other than looking in the paper or something and seeing that it was playing, you wouldn't have known anything about it. It wasn't at the major theaters or anything. And that's one thing I like about the Grandin.
Right.
And we went, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. Just a fantastic movie. Didn't know anything about it. Walk in, the name of it is The Red Violin. Fantastic movie. It's a whole long story about this violin, I'll just say.
All right, well, let me close with this, some Grandin Theater trivia. We've got 2 trivia questions here for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So ring your buzzer if you know the answer. In 1989, there was a movie being shot in the Roanoke area, and some of the scenes were shot at the Grandin. You can see it, the Grandin Theater.
I know it.
What about Bob?
Bob? Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't ring the buzzer, bud.
I didn't. I was going to wait and let him finish.
Say what you want. I got that one.
You guys do a lot of research, don't you?
Okay,
Well,
number
you might
2.
need to do some more, because that's not the right answer.
Oh, it's not. It's not. I would have thought for sure.
I can see where you got
Yeah,
those.
T-Bone and I were playing a joke on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what about Bob was shot the next year, 1990, and Bill Murray did come to the Grand Theater for a fundraiser. But the movie that was shot in 1979 starred Dudley Moore.
Oh, I thought you'd say, see, you got us crossed up. You said 1989 at first.
Oh, I did? Okay, I'm
You
sorry,
did.
89, yeah. All right, so
I mean, you got Mike crossed
Yeah, I
up,
know,
not me.
yeah.
I don't think you crossed me up. I think I maybe didn't know it anyway.
So 1990, Bill Murray was shooting What About Bob? Did a fundraiser at the Grandin. But 1989, this movie was being shot in the Roanoke area, and Grandin is in some of the scenes, and it starred Dudley Moore.
In 1989 or
89.
1979?
Okay, yeah.
89.
I
Do you
still
remember
don't-
Dudley Moore?
Oh yeah. 10.
Crazy People. You don't remember that movie?
No,
Obviously, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 1.
clearly.
They.
But Crazy People, if you watch that movie, you can see the Grandin Theater
interesting.
in the background. So that's yeah.
Who else was in it besides Dudley Moore? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I think Bo Derek was in that one with him.
That was.
You are the Roger Ebert of Roanoke movies there, G. Well, Honey Badger, thank you so much. And G-Man, as always, thank you. That concludes our section on the Grandin Theater memories. And there are a lot of good memories there.